Welcome to the Course Creators Academy podcast with digital design and course creation expert, Pua Lena. Tune in for strategies on how you can use online courses to grow your business. You'll hear how impact-driven entrepreneurs are using online courses to transform lives. Now, let's get started. Here's your host, Pua Lena.
Welcome to the Course Creators Academy podcast. I am so excited to have a very special guest and my first guest on this podcast, Paul Larsen, we started out in a professional setting, professional relationship, and we have become close friends. I adore spending time with you, Paul, and I love learning about everything that you do and everything that you coach your clients on. Two of those things that I've recently really been excited to learn more about are how to not overcome, but how to really thrive with imposter syndrome and perfectionism, which are two things that I feel like just haunt me on the daily. So I can't wait to dig into those topics today and just see where the conversation takes us. But I would love for you to introduce yourself and sort of all that you do to our audience.
Wow, Pua, thank you so much. I think we have a mutual admiration society here. So I have garnered so much wonderful, heartfelt energy from you as well. And so it goes beyond, as you were saying, kind of that professional relationship into a connection that transcends the professional piece. And those are always wonderful when those happen, because a lot of times it's a lovely surprise. Not by accident, though. I believe in things happen for a variety of reasons. So it's an honor for me to be here. And it is an honor for me to be your first guest. And it's like, wow. I'm like, whoa, this is like a benchmark.
It is.
Yeah, it's like, wow. So thank you. And throughout our talk together, I'll be able to share sort of my own kind of stories, my successes and failures and mistakes and all the things that make up who I am. But I just love, I'm living in California. I'm a coach, author, and educator. I work a lot with helping people find their voice as a leader. And that touches on so much of kind of our unique value that we bring, our unique vision that we have, our unique influence that we bring out to the world, right? And inspiration. It also touches on how do we get unstuck so much of that time, getting out of that comfort zone and really learning how to grow and develop. And then kind of throwing all of that together in some big old pot, and creating a brand that speaks to who you are and speaks to the world. And I think, when we look at all the different ways we have in today's world, including the incredible, robust applications and engines and systems like a Kajabi and everything like that we have that can bring us to the world. But how do we do that uniquely? How do we do that with such a way that we are inspiring not everybody, but the people we're supposed to inspire? And that's taken me on a journey. And along the way, by the way, I'm an imposter. So a lot of times I'm kind of feeling like, what am I doing? And why am I on this podcast with Pua, who's got like incredible talent and experience with creating courses and creating all this online incredible work? What am I doing here? And, who are these other people that I'm with? And how come I don't feel like I don't quite belong? And that's just my imposter voice. So I'll talk a little bit more about that as well. I live with that daily.
Oh my gosh. It's so if you guys don't know, aside from the work that I do, can I share how we know each other?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
Perfect. So, and this is really cool. Like this, I just am really thrilled with how, like, the trajectory of our relationship. So Paul came into our sort of sphere of awareness as a client of ours, and we're currently supporting his website design and his site build. And he is now also a coach in our Course Creators Academy program. He presented an amazing session at our summit a couple of weeks ago. And so because I am taking part in building his website, I'm seeing his bio, I'm seeing his, his portfolio of clients that he's had. I'm seeing the body of work that he's put together, the book that he's written. Books. Have you written multiple books?
One book.
One amazing, fabulous book.
One book with many pages, has multiple pages.
There it is. Perfect. And you're coming out with a podcast and you have, multiple coaching opportunities and courses, and you've had some big time clients as well, like really big name clients. And so for you to have all the years of experience that you've had and to say that you're like, what am I doing here on Pua's podcast? Guys, my podcast as of today has 4 episodes. Like this is not, I'm a teeny tiny little fish. And it's so interesting, those games that our minds play. And yet here we are, right? And it's a beautiful product of your teachings and how I've learned from you how to just sort of thrive with that and use it as motivation and inspiration to actually do the things that I might be afraid to do. And I would just really love to hear your take on like why it's so important to you to not teach people how to overcome these things, but to really use it to your benefit.
Yeah, no, I love that. And your key tag there, your key hashtag was games our minds play, right? So it's all about what the games that our minds will play. And whose minds are they? They're our minds. So whose games are they? They're our games. So we are creating the games, but we're also playing the games that are in our minds. And so when it comes to sort of the imposter piece, imposter syndrome, when people are feeling like a fake, or they're feeling like a fraud, or like what I said, I don't belong here. Who am I? Why am I in with this group of people who are supposed experts? That's our mind doing that. And when you do the traditional search online about imposter syndrome, the SEO comes back at you about overcoming imposter syndrome. And it's about overcoming this and overcoming that and how to fight this and how to fight that. And you know what? I'm just tired. I'm fatigued. I get like, I'm like everyone else. I like to put my feet up and I like to relax. And so when I hear overcoming, I just like, oh my gosh, that just sounds like a lot of work. And life is wonderful, but life can be a lot of work on any given day, any given hour, any given minute. I don't want to add more burden to that. So when I hear the words overcome, one of the immediate things I'll do is reframe that from overcome to sort of, okay, what's a reframe from that? How about something around celebrating that or living with it or integrating it? But when I say celebrate, that's exactly what I tend to do. It's like having a party around when I'm feeling this way, instead of necessarily avoiding that feeling or trying to overcome it, which to me kind of means climbing over it, I'm going to lean into it. I'm going to go right into it. And I'm going to say, party on, because when I'm feeling that way, it means I am doing something different, like this. I'm doing something different, like creating my first course on Kajabi. I'm doing something different, like creating the podcast. I'm doing something different, like coaching a brand new client in a new industry. I am doing something different that might feel like I have 8 legs and 14 arms and hands, but it's like I'm doing something new versus trying to overcome that, which sometimes when we do overcoming it, it almost feels like we want to overcome it to get back to what we were. And it's, if you think about the pandemic the last couple of years that we're still living in and we're going to be living in for a while, there's all this, sometimes you hear this call to when we get back to normal. Well, guess what? That ain't happening. And I think a lot of people realize that now. I hope a lot of people realize that now. But getting back to normal means you're going to go back to what things were. And that doesn't mean we don't want to, but it means we've got to figure out a way that we carve out a new sort of persona, a new soul, a new way of looking at something. So when I hear about overcoming imposter syndrome, it's like, I'm not going to jump over it. I'm not going to fight it. I want to find a way to make it work, make it so that I thrive with it. And what I've been able to do is just that. I mean, that has been something that I'm pretty proud of for myself, is celebrating it and then understanding what it is and then making it who I am.
God, there's so many things that you said that were so spot on. And I have to say, it's when you think about imposter syndrome and perfectionism, and we were talking earlier about like the summit and the program that we're putting together and how this is a transformation that we're providing. And so when I was writing the copy for the website to bring people into the summit, for your session, I wrote overcoming imposter syndrome and perfectionism, because I knew those were two things that you taught on. And I was just thinking of like, okay, so what is the transformation that we're looking for in Paul's session? Cool. They can move through that and overcome it. Right. And it wasn't until we had a coach's call that you were like, I definitely am not coming from the school of thought where we're going to overcome it. We're going to thrive with it. And I was like, oh my God, why did I assume that was the transformation? And I think it's because like, it's something that feels like it holds us back and we want to get rid of it, rather than understanding that it may always show up in different forms, because we're going to continue to grow. And so as we expand, imposter syndrome, perfectionism will show up in different ways and at different levels.
Yes.
Right?
Brilliant. It's brilliant insight. And and you had not told me this before. So this is in the moment, right? that you just said this. And so when I'm reflecting back to you right now, is that was a brilliant insight that you just did, because you went back to like when you were putting together copy and you thought about overcoming, and now you realize, oh, wait a minute, this is why I did that. And this is now what he's saying right there. That's that capability that you just demonstrated in your narrative, right? Just a couple minutes ago, is stepping out of who you are and looking to say, why did I do that? Why did I put overcome? Why did I do that? That is what will help us with our mind games all the time, no matter what we're doing. You're just giving an example of when you put copy together. But in many instances, when we feel a certain way, whether it be lack of confidence, whether it be I have to be perfect before I go out with a course, I have to make sure I'm pleasing people. That's another symptom. Or it's taking me forever. Procrastination. I call it the 3 Ps: procrastination, people pleasing, and perfectionism. Those are 3 symptoms of imposter syndrome right there. And it doesn't matter what the feeling is. If we can just kind of step out of it for a moment and say, I feel like a fake and fraud. I'm a fake and fraud. No, wait a minute. I'm not. I'm feeling like I'm a fake and fraud. The difference between owning it, which is I'm a fake, I'm a fraud, I'm this, I'm that, versus, hold on a minute. This is just me feeling. I'm having feelings like I'm a fake or fraud. Slight pivot, slight finesse, but hugely different to our mind. We're not playing the traditional game with our mind that we created that says, I have to own that feeling. I'm feeling like I don't have any confidence. I'm feeling weak. I'm feeling this. I am this. It's like, oh, no, wait a minute. I'm just observing that I'm doing that. And so that's what you just did there with that example. And I know you just kind of gave it. You were just talking about it, but that shows right there the difference between when we own something and then it becomes who we are and it becomes embedded in our DNA. And that's why we remain stuck in our fixed mindset for however long that is, versus, wait a minute, stepping out of my body for a minute, looking at myself saying, no, I'm just having feelings that I'm a fake or fraud. That's my imposter, or that's this, or that's that. But it's just feeling. It doesn't mean I have to own it. And that's the difference. That right there. That's the clear distinction.
Oh my gosh. I am a student of Paul Larsen.
Well, I love that, but you're a student of yourself. What you did there was really, really powerful when you can apply that to other aspects of your life, of things that happen, situations, scenarios where you may feel stuck. And my guess is right now, given the work that you do and given all the things that you've accomplished, especially with this summit and the academy and everything, you're able to kind of work through a lot of the perfectionism, a lot of the procrastination, a lot of the things that may get you stuck, because it's like, you know what? Okay, here's what I'm going to do. Here's my next step, or I'm feeling this, but I'm going to do this anyway. And again, that is stepping out of our mind for a moment and looking and saying, oh, okay, this is what I need to do, or this is what I'm feeling. You're not having to own everything. So you're actually, I appreciate that when you say, but you're actually a student of yourself, because theoretically, that's all we have to be is just understanding who we are. The national, I said this at some of my presentations that I've done, but it holds true for me so much. National Science Foundation did a study back in 2005. So it's like, I don't know how many long years ago that is now, 15, 16 years ago, but it still holds true. They did a study and they found that the average adult can process anywhere from 12,000 to 60,000 distinctly different thoughts in a day. Now, 12,000 to 60, I don't know, like that's just a huge range for me. If I can count up to 500, I'm good. But that's a lot of thoughts. And of those thoughts, something like 80 to 85% tend to be negative. They have a negativity bias in them. Kind of like, oh, I got to be careful of this. I got to watch this. What if that happens? What if that happens? Look what happened. They have this like negativity. It doesn't mean we're always negative. It just means the thoughts are up here running around up here. And they can have a tendency of that what if kind of scenario, kind of that fight or flight kind of thing that we humans are engineered around. And they also found like about 90 to 95% of all those thoughts were carried over from the day before. So we are continuing our thoughts. And how often is that? Think about it. We don't necessarily have a thought diary that we keep, right? And if we did, I bet you'd find like, what am I thinking that for? Or where did that thought come from? Or my gosh, that's the same thought I've been having for the last year, And it doesn't mean it's a bad thought. It doesn't mean it should be changed. It brings awareness, because our thoughts become who we are. Our thoughts we have thoughts before we make any decision. We have thoughts before we take any action. Sometimes it happens so fast we don't even think, but we don't do anything without thinking. If I'm going to stand up right now and move, I have to think about that before. It may happen so fast. The thought may just be very fleeting, but I'm still thinking about it right before it happens. Mm-hmm. So this is what I love to always this is what I use for myself. We are choosy about the cars we drive, the food we eat, the clothes we wear. We're choosy about what we stream and what we watch, the music, the movies, the binge watching we do. We're choosy about our friends, right? But we are very seldom choosy about the thoughts that enter our head. So I can sit here and talk about the great restaurants that I live in San Francisco, and the great places I get to eat. You live in an incredible, beautiful area. You've got favorite spots on the island that in Honolulu and the surrounding islands and the neighbor islands. We can be very choosy about what we like and what we don't like. Oh, I like that place and that place, or that part of the beach is wonderful. Or in San Francisco, I love this neighborhood. But I am not necessarily as choosy about what thoughts enter my mind. And if I think about it, heck, my thoughts are going to shape me much more than a pair of shoes are, or much more than a new shirt is, or a jacket, or whatever it might be. we are not choosy about what enters our mind. And thus, that's why our mind, going back to what you said at the very beginning, can play games with us, because the mind will develop the games that will create an environment that is comfortable for the mind, but not necessarily the best environment for us to do our best work, because our mind is going to keep us safe. That's the whole fight or flight. And most of the time we're going to want to remain safe. So no, Paul, you're not going to go out and put a new course on Kajabi or get a new website or have new photos taken or whatever it might be, because no, don't do that. You might make a mistake. You might look bad. Nobody might buy it. You don't know. Don't go speak at that conference because you might look like a fool. Because it's trying to keep us safe, and that's going to keep us in a fixed mindset, which is a nice boxed-in area, but it's based on fear of looking stupid, fear of not looking like you're smart, fear of looking, all the fears, right? Versus the growth, which is messy and colorful and vibrant, but it's where growth happens. And that's the difference. And I will always choose messiness in my thoughts over the streamlined, sterile thoughts that will keep me always clean and boxed in. I don't always do that. And there'll be times where I may absolutely find myself in a fixed mindset, but then I observe it, and it's my choice to get out of it.
What's up, course creators? I hope you're enjoying my conversation with Paul. This was such an awesome conversation that I decided to break this episode up into 2 parts. In part 1, you learned about some symptoms of imposter syndrome and how we can start to navigate through that. In part 2, we're going to dive deep into getting comfortable with being uncomfortable so that you can experience the growth that you're looking for in your business and your life. Be sure to subscribe so you know when part 2 comes out. See you there.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Course Creators Academy podcast. Join the conversation in the Course Creators Clubhouse on Facebook. And if you love this podcast, don't forget to subscribe and share the love with a 5-star review. And tag us on Instagram at pualena.co for a shout out on the next episode. And be sure to visit pualena.com for more info. Thanks again for listening.